Have you ever felt something and had no words for it? Not sadness, not happiness, not fear, something in between, something undefined, a moment where your mind goes quiet, but not in peace, in awareness, and for a second, you feel like you are looking at your life from the outside, like you are here, but also not fully here. Most people ignore these moments. They scroll past them, they distract themselves, they label them as stress or overthinking or just a strange mood. But what if these moments are not random? What if they are not problems, but signals? There are experiences almost everyone has felt, but very few people ever stop to question. Not because they are rare, because they are too subtle, too uncomfortable, too difficult to explain. So they get buried, ignored, forgotten. But tonight, we are not going to ignore them. We are going to look directly at them. Because these feelings, these strange shifts in perception, may be pointing to something deeper, something beneath thought, beneath identity, beneath everything you think you are. This is not a video about emotions in the ordinary sense. It is not about naming moods or diagnosing your mind or turning every strange feeling into a problem. It is about recognizing that sometimes the human being feels more than language can hold, and sometimes what feels strange is not a malfunction. It is an opening, a small crack in the surface of ordinary life, where something deeper begins to show through. Let us begin. Have you ever looked at the world and suddenly it did not feel real? Not in a dramatic way, not like everything disappeared, but in a subtle, unsettling way. The colours are still there, the sounds are still there, the room is still the same room, but something inside you is no longer fully convinced. It feels like there is a thin layer between you and reality, like you are watching your life instead of living it. Psychology may call this dissociation, a temporary detachment from the ordinary sense of reality, a protective mechanism of the mind. And sometimes that explanation is accurate. The nervous system can distance itself when it is overwhelmed. The mind can create space when experience feels too intense. But that explanation only touches one layer, because there is another possibility. What if this feeling is not only detachment? What if it is distance? Distance from something you have always assumed to be solid, but never truly examined. Your identity, your thoughts, your perception of the world, because the truth is, you do not experience reality directly. You experience a version of it, a filtered version, an interpreted version, a constructed version. Your brain takes light, sound, memory, emotion, expectation, and turns all of it into the world you call real. And most of the time, the construction is so seamless that you never notice it. But every now and then, the construction slips. Not completely, just enough for you to feel it. That strange sensation that nothing feels quite solid might not always be a failure of the mind. Sometimes it's the moment you realize that the world you experience is not the same thing as reality itself. It is a doorway, and for a moment you are standing at the edge of it. Have you ever felt like you do not belong anywhere? Even when you are surrounded by people, even when everyone is kind, even when nothing is technically wrong, you are talking, you are listening, you are participating, but something inside you remains distant, disconnected, like you are slightly out of sync with the room. Most people call this loneliness, but loneliness is usually about absence. This feeling is different. It can happen in a crowded place, at a family gathering, in a relationship, inside a conversation where everyone else seems completely comfortable. It is not simply that you are alone. It is that something in you does not match the frequency of where you are. This is misalignment, a deeper kind of mismatch between the person you're becoming and the environments that once felt normal. Because as awareness changes, perception changes. And as perception changes, old spaces begin to feel different. Not because the space has changed, because you did. The jokes that once entertained you begin to feel empty. The conversations that once absorbed you begin to feel repetitive. The ambitions that once motivated you begin to feel strangely small. And at first, this feels like loss. You wonder if something is wrong with you. You wonder why you cannot just fit in. You wonder why what used to feel comfortable now feels heavy. But nothing is wrong. You are not broken. You are in transition. And transition often feels like exile before it feels like freedom. There is a stage in inner development where the old world no longer fits, but the new one has not fully appeared. That space is uncomfortable, but it is also sacred, because it means you are no longer asleep inside a life that does not belong to you. You are beginning to notice the mismatch, and noticing the mismatch is the first sign that alignment is possible. Have you ever had a moment where everything became too real? Not unreal. The opposite, intensely real. You become aware of your breathing, your body, your thoughts, the fact that you exist, and suddenly it is overwhelming. Like your mind opened a door it usually keeps closed. Most of the time, you do not feel your existence directly. You are busy living through it. You are thinking, planning, responding, remembering, wanting, avoiding. Your attention is pointed outward, toward the world, toward tasks, toward people, toward whatever demands your energy next. But then, for a moment, the usual movement stops. Attention turns back on itself, and you notice something simple, but almost impossible to explain. You're aware. Not just aware of something, aware. There is a presence here, a knowing, a silent witness behind experience. And that awareness feels strangely larger than the life it is witnessing. Larger than your thoughts, larger than your name, larger than your personality. This can feel frightening because it interrupts the ordinary story. You're used to thinking that you are your thoughts, your past, your body, your preferences, your fears, your plans. But in that moment of intense reality, you sense something behind all of it, something that has been present through every version of you. The child you were, the person you are now, the person you are still becoming, all of them changed, but the awareness that knew them remained. This is why the feeling can be so powerful. It is not just self-consciousness, it is consciousness recognizing itself. And once that recognition happens, even for a second, ordinary life never feels exactly the same again. Have you ever missed something that never actually happened? A place you have never been, a time you never lived, a version of life that only exists in your imagination. And yet, it feels real. You feel drawn to it, connected to it, almost nostalgic for it. This is one of the strangest experiences the human mind can have, because it does not follow logic. You cannot miss something you never experience, and yet you do. Maybe it happens when you see an old photograph, a quiet street from another decade, a candlelit room, a distant landscape, a life that feels slower, older, more meaningful. Or maybe it happens with a person you have never met, a home you have never entered, a path you never took. Something in you says, I know this, but you do not know it, not with memory. So what is happening? The mind does not only remember the past, it also reaches toward possibility. It constructs worlds, it senses patterns, it imagines versions of life that were never lived, but somehow feel emotionally true. Sometimes the longing is not for a literal place. It is for a quality, stillness, belonging, beauty, simplicity, depth. You think you are missing another time, but maybe you are missing a state of being. You think you are longing for a place, but maybe you are longing for a version of yourself that could exist there. This is why the feeling is so painful and so beautiful. It reminds you that your life is only one path among many, one body, one timeline, one sequence of choices, and somewhere inside you, there is an awareness of all the lives you did not live, not as regret, as vastness. And when that feeling comes, do not dismiss it. It may be showing you something your current life has forgotten, a hunger of the soul, a direction without a map, a quiet reminder that what you seek may not be in the past at all. It may be waiting inside the future you have not yet chosen. Have you ever pushed someone away, even when part of you wanted them close? You delay the message, you avoid the call, you say you are busy, and then you sit alone with the exact loneliness you created. This feeling is difficult to admit because it does not make sense on the surface. If you wanted connection, why did you move away from it? If you cared, why did you disappear? Most people explain this as coldness, or emotional confusion, or fear of intimacy, and sometimes it is all of those things. But beneath it, there is often something deeper, a protective intelligence inside the nervous system, a part of you that learned, perhaps long ago, that closeness is not always safe, that being seen can lead to being judged, that needing someone can lead to being abandoned, that opening the heart can become an invitation for pain. So when connection begins to feel real, the old defense awakens. It builds a wall before you consciously decide to build one. And then you blame yourself for the wall. But the wall did not appear because you are broken. It appeared because some part of you once needed it. This does not mean the wall should stay forever. Protection can become a prison when the danger is gone. But healing does not begin by attacking the wall. It begins by understanding why it was built. There is a strange sadness in pushing people away, because the part of you that hides is usually the same part that most deeply wants to be found. And when you notice this pattern, really notice it. Without shame, something begins to soften. You start to see that the goal is not to force yourself open. The goal is to become safe enough inside yourself. That closeness no longer feels like a threat. And that is when connection stops feeling like danger and starts feeling like home. Have you ever felt like you were meant for something, but you could not name what it was? Not ambition, not the ordinary desire to succeed, something quieter, stranger, more persistent, a feeling that there is a life waiting for you, somewhere beyond the one you are currently living. You do not know what it looks like. You do not know how to reach it, but you can feel it, like a door in the distance. This feeling can be frustrating, because the world asks for practical answers. What do you want? What is your plan? What is your goal? But some callings do not begin as plans. They begin as pressure, a subtle tension between who you are and who you have not yet become. This pressure can feel uncomfortable. It can make ordinary life feel incomplete. It can make success feel strangely hollow. It can make distractions lose their power, because something in you is no longer satisfied with survival. Something in you wants alignment. The mistake most people make is assuming that if they cannot name the calling, then it is not real. But many of the deepest movements of life begin before language. A seed does not know the shape of the tree. It only knows to move toward light. In the same way, you may not know what you are becoming, but you can feel the direction. More truth, more depth, more courage, more freedom, more of yourself. This is not random restlessness. It is the soul refusing to remain inside a life that has become too small. And when you feel it, do not rush to define it too quickly. Sit with it, listen to it, let it become clearer. Because sometimes the next chapter of your life does not announce itself with certainty. It arrives first as discomfort, as longing, as the quiet sense that there is more. And that sense, if honoured, can become a path. Have you ever felt like you are not just one person, like there are many versions of you living inside the same body? The one who wants discipline, the one who wants escape, the one who forgives, the one who still resents, the one who dreams of change, the one who is terrified of becoming visible. This can feel confusing because we are taught to think of the self as one solid thing, one personality, one identity, one continuous I. But the inner world is not that simple. You are layered. There is the self you show others, the self you protect, the self you perform, the self you hide, the self you were before the world taught you to shrink, and the self you are becoming. Sometimes these layers agree. Often they do not. This is why you can want something and resist it at the same time. Why you can know what is good for you and still move toward what harms you. Why you can desire peace while being addicted to chaos. It is not because you are weak. It is because different parts of you are carrying different histories. One part wants freedom. Another part remembers danger. One part wants love. Another part remembers rejection. One part wants visibility. Another part remembers shame. Inner conflict is not proof that something is wrong. It is proof that something inside you is asking to be integrated. Spiritual maturity is not becoming one simple perfect person. It is learning to hold all your layers with awareness, to stop letting the wounded parts secretly drive the life, to stop confusing temporary states with your deepest self. Because beneath all these layers, there is something stable, not a personality, awareness, the silent field in which every version of you appears, changes, and disappears. And the more you rest there, the less divided you become. Have you ever had a moment where everything suddenly clicked? Not because you solved a problem, not because someone explained it, but because reality itself seemed to arrange itself into meaning. For 1 second, you understood your life, your pain, your patterns, the reason something had to happen the way it happened, and then, almost as quickly as it came, the clarity faded. But you remembered the feeling, This is one of the most powerful states a human being can experience. A glimpse, not full enlightenment, not permanent wisdom, not a final answer, a glimpse, a brief opening in the usual fog of thought, where a deeper intelligence becomes visible. These moments often come when we stop forcing, after grief, after surrender, after silence, after a long period of confusion, when the mind finally becomes too tired to keep arguing with life. And then something opens, a pattern appears. You realize that what looked random was forming you. What felt like delay was protecting you. What seemed like loss was making space. This does not mean everything painful was good. It means pain can become meaningful when consciousness grows large enough to include it. A glimpse does not remove suffering, but it changes the relationship to suffering. You begin to suspect that life is not only happening to you, it is also revealing you. And this suspicion, once it appears, can become the beginning of wisdom. Because the deepest truths are rarely forced into the mind. They arrive when the mind becomes quiet enough to receive them. And when they come, even briefly, they leave a mark, a memory of clarity, a reminder that beneath the chaos, there may be order. Beneath the confusion, there may be intelligence. Beneath the life you are trying to control, there may be something already guiding you. Have you ever felt strangely calm during a moment when you should have been afraid? Something happens, a crisis, a loss, a sudden change, and instead of panic, there is silence. Not numbness, not denial, a wide, clear stillness, as if some deeper part of you steps forward, while the ordinary self falls quiet. This kind of calm can feel almost unnatural. Later, you may wonder why you did not react more, why you were not more emotional, why you seemed so still. But sometimes, when life becomes too intense for the personality, awareness takes over. The surface self cannot handle what is happening, so something deeper carries you. Many people discover this only in extreme moments, at the edge of loss, at the edge of danger, at the edge of endings. And what they find there surprises them. They realize there is a place inside them that is not as fragile as they thought, a place that can remain present even when life is breaking open. This is not emotional suppression. Suppression is tight. This is spacious. Suppression avoids. This witnesses. Suppression says, I cannot feel this. Stillness says, I can be here with this. There is a profound difference. And if you have ever touched that deeper stillness, even once, you know that you are not only your reactions. You are not only the fear that rises. You are not only the thoughts that panic. You are not only the body that trembles. You are also the space in which all of that happens. And that space is far more stable than the storm passing through it. This is why ancient traditions valued stillness so deeply. Not because stillness makes life painless, but because stillness reveals what in you cannot be destroyed by pain. Have you ever felt that a simple moment carried enormous meaning? A stranger's face, a song at the right time, a sentence in a book, a dream you could not forget, a repeated number, a sudden memory, and something in you paused. Not because the event was dramatic, because it felt arranged, like reality was speaking in a language just beneath ordinary language. Most people dismiss these moments. Coincidence, pattern seeking, the mind finding meaning where none exists. And sometimes that is true. The human mind does search for patterns. It does connect dots. It does create stories. But the fact that the mind can invent meaning does not prove that all meaning is invented. There are moments when coincidence carries a weight that ordinary randomness does not explain emotionally. Moments when life seems to answer a question you had not spoken aloud. Moments when the outer world mirrors the inner with such precision that you feel seen by something larger. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence, not proof in the scientific sense, but an event that becomes significant because of the relationship between the inner state and the outer occurrence. Whether you understand it psychologically, spiritually, or symbolically, synchronicity has power because it interrupts isolation. It makes you feel that your inner life is not sealed off from the world, that something moves between the seen and unseen. The mistake is becoming obsessed with signs. The wisdom is becoming sensitive to meaning. Not every pattern is a message, but some moments ask to be listened to. And when one arrives, do not grasp at it. Do not force it into a story. Just notice. Ask what it awakens in you. Because sometimes the message is not in the event itself. It is in the part of you that comes alive when the event happens. These feelings are not random, but they are also not always supernatural. That distinction matters, because true spiritual maturity does not turn every strange feeling into a cosmic message. It learns to listen carefully. Some feelings come from the nervous system. Some come from memory. Some come from fear. Some come from longing. Some come from the deeper intelligence of the soul. The work is not to believe everything. The work is to become sensitive enough to tell the difference. Because the inner world speaks in many voices. The wounded self speaks. The protective self speaks. The conditioned self speaks. The intuitive self speaks. And beneath all of them, awareness remains silent, watching. The purpose of this exploration is not to make you more confused. It is to invite you into a deeper relationship with your own experience, to stop dismissing the subtle, to stop running from the uncomfortable, to stop assuming that what cannot be named has no meaning. There are feelings in you that are asking to be understood, not solved, understood. The feeling that reality is not quite solid. The feeling that you do not belong. The feeling that you are more than your personality. The longing for a life you cannot explain. The wall you build against love. The call you feel without a map. The many selves within you. The glimpse of clarity. The stillness beneath fear. The meaningful coincidence that stops you in your tracks. None of these should be worshipped, but none should be ignored. They are thresholds, and every threshold asks the same question. Will you pass through unconsciously, or will you look? So tonight, before you sleep, take one moment, not to meditate perfectly, not to become spiritual, not to force an experience. Just sit quietly and ask yourself, what feeling have I been avoiding because I could not name it? Then listen, not with tension, with patience, because sometimes the feeling you cannot name is not trying to confuse you. It is trying to lead you back to yourself. Subscribe to Sacred Flame, because we are only beginning to explore the hidden architecture of consciousness. And what comes next goes even deeper.